Hello, I'm Pirate Dave with another daily newspaper story for the Phantom. This is story number 2, originally published starting November 9th, 1936. This was 8 months after the start of the strip, after the start of the first story, The Singh Brotherhood. And so these 3 or 4 panels printed every single day. Readers had been following this epic story, and then it was finally over after 8 months with this mystery promised, which is who is the Sky Band, or what is the Sky Band. Very, very exciting stuff. Just to quickly recap the Singh Brotherhood, we were introduced to the Phantom. The Phantom was introduced to Diana Palmer. He saved Diana Palmer from the Singh Brotherhood and then tracked down the Singh Brotherhood, who were his ancient enemies of the Phantom line. And with the help of British Colonial Service's Captain Melville Horton, bombed their base to hell, and with the help of Sala, made it out of there before she collapses, admitting that she's a spy for an organization called the Sky Band. And that's where we jump into Phantom Daily Story number 2, the Sky Band, otherwise known as the Phantom versus the Sky Maidens, which is very delicate way of putting these ladies that appear in this book. If the first story was establishing the Phantom legend and all that, this is really iterating on a lot of the stuff introduced in that story, as well as expanding upon the Phantom's resources. So we're not going to get a huge lore dump, and this is about half the length. That the Singh Brotherhood, I think, still to this day, remains the longest Phantom story, like by a lot. Somebody can correct me if that's inaccurate, but I'm pretty sure it's the longest one for quite a long while. This is still a fairly lengthy one, so let's get right into it. This collection in particular, I should mention, is not complete. It is missing probably, I don't have an exact figure, but about 40 or 50 panels total. I'll point them out whenever they happen, just for the purposes of a full review. And let's get right into it. This collection starts out with recapping the Phantom's legend. 400 years ago, washes up on shore, finds the skull of his father's killer, vows to fight injustice, greed, wherever it may be, and every male member of his family will carry on the task. And we jump to the modern day, which was 1936 at the time, where Phantom and Melville Horton are talking about the mystery of Skyband. And the Phantom's actually, he's in good graces with the authorities, which is odd for him. He usually has to avoid the stigma of being seen as a crook because of the mask. Meanwhile, Sala has woken up and she's regretting that she ever told the Phantom she was part of the Sky Band. She decides to make her escape, and while she's making her escape, it looks like the Phantom has helped her. So the British Colonial Services think the Phantom's double-crossed them and helped Sala escape. The Phantom tries to escape himself, and he's a capable man, of course. However, he is not as successful. And although Devil comes to help him, Devil gets caught in an wolf trap, an animal trap. And that's what leads to the Phantom being caught. This is where our first omission comes from. It's only 4 panels, but it's showing the Phantom releasing Devil from the animal trap and making sure he gets away safely while the Phantom takes the rap. It's a really unfortunate omission. It may be small, but it really shows the love of Devil. And just to establish it right away, since we're on the subject, Diana Palmer is going to appear in this story significantly too, but she's not going to be the damsel in distress this time. Our good boy Devil is going to be the damsel in distress quite a lot, in fact. So the Phantom's taken into custody, but he's not in custody for long, because apart from Devil, he also has the Bandar. The Bandar come to break him out. This is where another one of our omissions comes from. It's just a light action panel. The knife gets thrown into the wall. It causes the captain to walk over to get the knife, and then he's, into the sleeves and catching him. So it's a little bit of a weird transition with that omission, but not a big one. So that's one of those ones where I can definitely understand why they cut it out. The Phantom escapes with the help of the Bandar, and we also have another omission. These first few are gonna happen right after another, and then it'll be a while before we get another one. This is a little 4-panel omission again, where the Phantom meets up with the Bandar. He's still cuffed, and he's like, "Hey, get me out of these cuffs. I shouldn't be in handcuffs. It's gonna ruin my reputation around the tribespeople." And so the Bandar help him out, and they're glad. The Phantom says, "Hey, we're looking for the Sky Band. We're looking for airplanes. Get on the horn. Get on the not on the horn. Get on the drums, because this is where we see the first appearance of the jungle drum system, and this is how the Phantom and tribes people communicate all over Bengal, is using the drum system. And if you saw the movie, it opens up with that system, right? Although it doesn't, we don't stay in the jungle long in that movie, so we don't see a lot of it, unfortunately. This is where another one of our panel omissions happens. It's just another small 4-panel situation of this tribesperson, Gligo, seeing one of the airplanes and reporting it, and then he meets up with the Phantom. So here we just skip to right when he meets with the Phantom and praises him, and this is how people see the Phantom. They see him as this mythological legend. The very next page, we actually get our largest panel omission yet. I didn't write it down here, but these are my markings, by the way. They're not in the book. This is about a 10-panel omission, I believe. The Phantom has climbed into a canoe to get to the Isle of Herons, which is where the Skyband was seen. But a plane from the Skyband actually comes to attack the canoe, and everybody powders out of the canoe and hides underneath it and pretends like they were sunk, but then they climb back into the canoe and make their way to it. This is a big omission with 10 panels, but I think it's a perfectly fine one because it's just a happenstance situation showing the Phantom outsmarting the Skyband for the first time. And so the Phantom and Devil make it on to the Isle of the Herons. They trudge through muck and swamp, and as sneaky as they are, Skyband is sneakier. Look at that, a gun sticking out of a tree stump. The omission makes this a little bit more silly, but I believe the idea is that the Skyband saw this airplane, and then so they sent somebody maybe to hang out in this stump in case the canoe that they thought they sank didn't actually sink. I'd like to believe that this person was not hiding out in this tree stump for days, just waiting in case somebody came by. But as it stands, the tree stump ploy works, but not for long, because the Phantom's not alone. He has Devil, but oh no, oh no. Devil got shot. Shoot Devil, will you? Knocks this person on the chin. And if you know anything about the Skyband, this is the only time we see this happen, but he's knocking out a woman here. And he wouldn't do that otherwise. We see him use other methods to dispatch the women. We would never see him punch them like this again. The rest of the Skyband follow the commotion. They take Phantom into custody, and they actually look at this. This poor guy, poor Devil. The Phantom pleads with the Skyband to help out Devil, and they actually do. They take Devil, to take care of him. And Phantom and Sala reunite, and she's like, "Yeah, well, you shouldn't have followed me." And the Phantom is locked up. And this is where, if you saw the movie, you might think that Sala is the leader of the Skyband, because she's the leader of the Skyband in the movie. But in the original story, you have the Baroness. I think this is the first panel that we see her down here. Obviously a iteration of the Red Baron character of, well, not character, he's a real person, the Red Baron. This is a woman. She's very aristocratic, so she has a sense of civility, and so she treats the Phantom with general respect and dignity. And look at this panel. Remember, this is 1936. This panel's dropping. That's going to be imagery that'll be classic to this genre forever, until this very day. You'd see that type of panel nowadays. Not, obviously with more detail and in color, but you get what I'm saying, right? Over the next several weeks of this story, we actually get kind of a soap operatic situation where the Phantom is pitting the members of the Skyband, who are an all-female pirate crew, against each other because they're all kind of taken with him. Meanwhile, Diana Palmer has arrived, and she's not meeting up with Melville Horton just to say hi. She's here to track down the Phantom, and not because she needs ambergris or money for the children's hospital, just because she loves the Phantom. She's come to Bangala just to track him down. While this is happening, the Baroness has decided that she's going to try to impress the Phantom. She's going to bring him along on one of their raids. And their very next raid, well, it just so happens to be on Diana's airplane. Look at that. By this point, keep in mind, the British Colonial Services believes that the Phantom helped Sala escape, so they actually think that he's the leader of the Skyband. That it's all been a trick to get his underling out of their custody. And Diana doesn't believe that when Horton tells her, like, "Hey, I think the Phantom's leading this pirate crew," until Diana sees the Phantom with the Skyband. There's going to be a lot of miscommunication between these two as their romance goes on, and this is just another one of them. The Phantom realizes pretty quickly that Diana being here puts her in real danger. He's just spent this last several weeks, pitting all these women against each other. He knows how dangerous they are, and so he pretends like he doesn't know Diana. The Baroness is not stupid. She's like, I think you like this one, and he's like, oh yeah, well, I like you. So Baroness is kissing the Phantom, and you see Diana's just crushed there. And this is one of the edits that happens in this collection, because these sets of panels are actually swapped. And you can see, especially with this very next panel, where Baroness is like, maybe you like this girl, and she's already gotten over it, right? No, I mean, these two panels happened before these two panels. For some reason, they felt like it was a better flow to just swap them, I guess. So the Baroness, having been satisfied that the Phantom is impressed with her, leaves Diana on the ship unharmed. Meanwhile, Diana is just absolutely distraught, right? The Phantom's still under the custody of the Skyband because they can't exactly trust him or anything. But meanwhile, Melville Horton is figuring out a trap to catch the Skyband, and he figures he's gonna let loose that there's a fat payload. There's a plane with a lot of treasure on it, and the Baroness doesn't exactly fall for it. She decides to send Sala to capture the plane, figuring it's a trap. And also, this gets Sala out of the way because the Baroness is smitten with the Phantom, right? And so this is where we see another one of the large omissions for this story. It's about 12 panels, and it shows Sala's full capture of gunning the plane down, getting out, getting ambushed by Melville Horton, and he pulls off her helmet and, oh man, it's Sala. And, of course he knows her because they just had an adventure together, right? So it cuts to Melville and Sala in the hospital, and Melville's trying to convince her to turn tail on the Skyband, which she actually does. And this is where we get another big panel omission, but we also get our first edit of this collection. So this panel originally featured a fair amount of dialogue, and then it was accompanied by 13 following panels laying out Sala revealing all that she knows about the Skyband and their base. And then it also cuts to the Phantom and the Baroness arriving back at the base while on an airplane. And we get another set of panel cuts, about 4 of them walking through the base. Very atmospheric panels, which, might not be important to, I guess, a collection editor, but really, I thought really artistic in establishing the world and the sort of grandeur of the Skyband's base. So it's a shame that they omitted them. Anyway, the Baroness reveals that she has a, huge payoff expected with the round-the-world dirigible, the Olympia. The biggest dirigible in the world. A dirigible, as you can see, is like a blimp, like the Hindenburg. and she's gonna attack it, right? So the Phantom knows that this is a very important airship, and it carries diplomats all over the world, and so she can upset more than just economies and financial sectors. She may be upsetting global politics. So he's not down with it, and she's like, "Hey, I'll do anything. I'll do anything to make you to make you like me." And he's like, "Well, I'd like some cheese." Cheese. This is where again we have to put back on our "it's 1936" hat, because why he wants the cheese, and this is a set of edited panels too. Some of them were omitted as well. He captures a mouse, and yep, he uses the mouse to scare the woman guarding him. And the panels that are omitted is that he uses the very same trick of a mouse to shuffle under the door of the radio room to make all the women in there run out too. Obviously, it's very misogynistic, not in the hateful sense, but in the minimalizing and demeaning of women that I thought Lee Falk had done actually like a really great job up until this point of establishing as dangerous and smart and intelligent and dangerous because of that. But the circumstances are funny. One can see the joke of it. And to be fair, there is a bit of dialogue that's omitted from this collection where the Phantom actually just straight up says, like, it's crazy that these women are so dangerous, yet a mouse scares them. It's a little lack of self-awareness on the part of Lee Falk while writing it, but it is what it is. So the Phantom gets on the radio and lets Melville know the plan. Meanwhile, the Baroness has figured out he's escaped, and in order to get him out of the radio room, look at that. You couldn't illustrate this panel in 2026. I tell you what, man. She puts a gun to Devil's head and uses him to get the Phantom to surrender. And the Phantom immediately surrenders. He's like, yeah, I'm not gonna. I love Devil. Again, this is why omitting any the panels with Devil earlier was a bad idea, because this is all about the bromance between the Phantom and the Devil. Those are the stakes here. It's no longer Diana Palmer at the mercy of some horrible man. It's Devil at the mercy of some horrible women. Anyway, the Phantom is back in the custody of the Baroness, but she still loves him, and she's still trying to impress him. So she's going to bring him along on the dirigible attack. Not before she beats the hell out of him a little bit. But while she launches her attack on the Olympia, Melville Horton has already gotten the message from the Phantom on the radio. He launches a counterattack, and she's completely floored. She doesn't expect it. She realizes the Phantom has betrayed her. You warned them. You betrayed us. And the Phantom's like, yeah, that's betray is hardly the right word in this case. And I mean, obviously, like, the Phantom's not working with you. What are you thinking? So with everything crumbling around her, the Baroness decides she don't love the Phantom anymore. Pow! Shoots him. Shoots off the gun. But it didn't do anything. So she shoots another one. It didn't do anything. The Phantom's still marching towards her. And now she believes. This whole time she's been in love with a man that she thought was just a specimen. But now she believes all the stories of the Phantom are true. That he's this jungle legend, that he's immortal. And so she takes poison. She poisons herself because she's not going out like that. And the Phantom's, that's a shame. We get one small panel omission here, which is just the Phantom jumping out with Devil. And of course we see that in the next panel anyway, so it's just a small one. But it turns out, like, if you're wondering, what did he do? Did he take the bullets out of the gun? Nah, bro. He just he just tanked those two bullets. He just pretended like they didn't hurt him. And that's where I wanted to pause and mention, like, this is the Phantom's real power, is is reestablishing his mythology, um, reinforcing the stories about him. And if he has to pretend like 2 bullets didn't hurt him in order to do that, that's what we see here. And so the Phantom escapes. He makes it to a doctor, and he's like, "Yeah, I got 2 bullets in me. Take care of me." The story wraps up with Diana Palmer realizing that the Phantom was not in love with Baroness, that she was in a dangerous situation, and he did what he did to save her. And um, at this point, they believe that he's still on the airplane that the Baroness was on, and that it's, I'm sorry, the focus was out there, and that it has crashed, and now he's dead. And that's almost where we leave him. But the Phantom actually meets up with Melville, and he's like, "Nope, I'm alive." And Melville's like, "Well, I'm sorry that I suspected you." And he's like, "No, it's fine, but I've got to find Diana because she thinks I'm dead." And that's when he hears the war drums. And what do the war drums mean? The war drums means there's a war in the jungle. The Phantom is the jungle's protector. As much as he wants to, he can't leave Diana. He can't leave to go explain things to Diana. He's got to keep peace on the jungle. And that's where our story ends. The next story, War in the Jungle. Hopefully you're appreciating as much as I do, the intricate story that's happening here. It's not, I guess it's not super complex, but it's super compelling, at least from my perspective, right? You go from this opening story, which is this 8-month long epic about, 400-year-old ancestral feud, and the who the Phantom is, and finding out what he can do and what he can't do, and meeting the jungle people and devil and all that, finding the graveyard of the whales, to this epic sky band, soap opera. And the way these two stories are the real footholds for the Phantom for the next 90 years, really establishes, because Lee Falk iterates upon the first story in the best way any sort of sequel or any sort of continuing story does. He gives us a whole new adventure that's linked well enough to the first one that we are orientated, but is independent enough that it just illustrates how many adventures this man goes on. And through this whole thing, the Phantom is mostly in jail. He's mostly locked up by the Skyband, so he's not actually doing a lot of butt kicking himself. It's very psychological, and it's very much the Phantom analyzing the criminals that have him captive, and his love for his animal companion, and his complicated love for Diana, and deciding that the best way to save her in that moment was to appear like he didn't love her. I don't know how best to illustrate it, but these two stories, more than any, just really establish the romance and the integrity of this character. And I think it's what sets him apart in many ways from, I mean, any characters that will be made from then until now, which is probably which is probably a really provocative thing to say, but it's why I feel so connected to him. Hopefully, you enjoyed this story as well. As you might remember, there was a fair amount that was omitted from this, but nothing that was absolutely critical. Just some stuff that I personally would question did a better job, really establishing the world and the atmosphere and the character of the Phantom at times. But it's still a good collection. It's cheap. There's a lot out there. So if you're looking for an affordable version of this book, especially before the one shot of the Phantom versus the Skyband comes out in April, maybe take a look at that one and track it down. I was Pirate Dave. Hopefully you enjoyed this full review. And the next one will be the daily story number 3, War in the Jungle. See you then.